On this episode, we discuss the TNA and Spike TV situation, Stephanie versus Brie, Cesaro and Paige's personalities, live crowd reactions, and more on this edition of Byte That. Welcome everybody to episode 49 of Byte That, the somewhat maybe international professional wrestling podcast where we talk about the ups and downs of that which we love, which is the world of professional wrestling. My name is Juan Velez. I am from San Juan, Puerto Rico, and I'm joined as always by this outstanding team as we're just one episode away. First, I'm actually going to switch things around from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. Well, actually, no. Where are you from now, Keith?
Technically Flin Flon, Manitoba. A town represented by a man named something Flanagan Flanagan. That's my legacy now. It's hell.
I need to get used to saying that. But the other guy, he's still from Boston, Massachusetts.
You can still keep me from Winnipeg. It's okay.
I'm saying Flin Flon. I am saying Flin Flon. From Boston, Massachusetts, Ryan McNulty.
See, I'm not actually from Boston directly either, but I'm not going to disclose the actual town I live in. But you'll probably be able to find Keith. It's a small town, so go look him up.
Yeah, I mean, really, if anybody's listening in Flin Flon,
if you actually make it there,
you can make it anywhere.
Hey, by the way, I'm actually not from San Juan either. Oh, crap, everything has been a lie, ladies and gentlemen.
Twist!
But something that is not a lie, and that we really do want to thank each and every one of you for listening and for checking out the YouTube channel, youtube.com/ByteThatCast, where last week was, it was an overwhelming week. We just released our parody video, Let Him Go, where we talk about the CM Punk situation. That video, as of this posting, has almost 6,000 views. That is just how many people will actually listen to that voice composed by one Ryan McNulty. We have that. The podcast did amazing also. Thank you for actually interacting with us too on social media. So you can check us out, Byte That Cast. We're pretty much everywhere. And now, just before we started recording, we've noticed that there's been this trend of sort of negativity within the past couple of weeks, past couple of months. I would actually argue ever since the real CM Punk situation. Would you guys agree with that? Fans have just seemed to be, just angry about everything.
They've been angry since the Royal Rumble. That's where I'd say it started. When Rey Mysterio started this whole snowball when he came out as number 30.
It's Rey Mysterio's fault. I knew it.
It is.
What do you think, Rhino?
I would say the frustration could even go back a little bit further to even SummerSlam of last year when the cash-in happened on Daniel Bryan. And people, fans just got, pickier and pickier, basically demanding to get what they want.
Yeah, and the reason that we're bringing this up is because, obviously we do the Squirt Circle, we check out Twitter constantly, we do the Facebook thing, because, we are wrestling fans. We don't intend to be anything else, but our pleasure, at least mine, for example, the past couple of days, I have had to go less to dirt sheets. I've had to go less to almost any social media site because it's just so angry. Like, even when I myself enjoy a segment, I go online and people are, finding just all the little things to nitpick about. And even though we are sometimes, I guess, guilty of doing that, I would say we do a pretty decent job of sort of scaling that back. But is there anything in particular to either one of you that is sort of just peaked, that you're just kind of fed up with right now?
Well, definitely the CM Punk chants have gone on long enough, and of course, so much so that we wrote a song about it.
Yeah.
Why are they chanting CM Punk at AJ Lee? That's cool, they're married. Don't bring her down with your smarky bullshit, for lack of a better term.
No, and the thing is, it damages the product, and it's not just the CM Punk chants, because, that's, I guess, the contemporary thing right now, but we can go back to when fans have been doing the JBL chants, Let's Go Cole chants, the Jerry Lawler chants, the Macho Man chants, which I'm actually wearing a Macho Man shirt right now, but
for everyone that can see
absolutely, someday. But the fact of the matter is that it seems like fans, when they go to the live shows in particular, they seem to be way more either bitter or they don't seem to be wanting to be part of the show, as opposed to being the show themselves. And the reason that I'm saying this is that I don't know if you guys saw this. Batista was actually interviewed by the Huffington Post, and he seemed really, really upset about the fact that fans no longer go to the shows to be part of the experience, but that they try to just, hey, look at me, I'm on TV, and I'm going to chant something to sort of interrupt whatever is happening, whether I like it or not.
I think the difference between now and then is that they actually get recognized for stuff now. Like, if it was a couple years ago when Batista was around full time, if they did those chants, people would just ignore it and go on with the show. But now people like Paul Heyman and Triple H, they'll call the fans out for those chants. And that's kind of a new thing.
The way I look at this is, I mean, I think Batista kind of hit the mark that fans have really changed. You know, if this was 7 years ago and, you know, someone asked me, oh, do you want the crowd to be more smarky and kind of more smarter to the business? I'd say, hell yeah. I mean, for a long time, John Cena was only getting booed in major cities where the fans were considered, and I use finger quotes here, smarter. But nowadays, it seems like that's everywhere, you know, because everyone just goes on the internet, looks something up, and thinks they're a genius. So now they can start these CM Punk chants because everybody knows that AJ Lee and Punk are married. I say this all the time that, you know, wrestling kind of reflects, you know, society. And I think the crowd is reflecting society in the same way. This is the selfie generation of wrestling crowds. You know, everyone's all about themselves.
Oh, the selfie era.
Yes.
Oh. Could you go say then that this started at the night after WrestleMania 29? Like, was that when it started? Then it just died down for a really long time, and then now it's more prominent?
I think that the big, I don't know if I should say issue or situation is that whenever you give somebody power, you know, this can apply to anything in life. You get either two results. Number one, you get to see the person managing that power in an effective way, the way that you're maybe used to. Option B is that power sort of transforms them, even if they don't realize it. And I think that's the problem that has actually happened with things like the Daniel Bryan situation, where WWE has been so open, has been so reactive. I mean, let's look back at the Rumble and everything, that I think everybody realizes we have a power. And realistically, we do. You know, we are the ones, we are the reason they have a company. But at the same time, it's sort of like there needs to be a balance.
See, I think a lot of these chants and all of this stuff has started. Basically, WWE almost dug their own grave in the way of this. It's 100% social media that lets this be widespread, because WWE, by encouraging Twitter so much, has essentially opened a forum for all WWE fans to communicate with each other. So, you know, it used to be, just like the internet wrestling nerds on the forums, but now with everybody using Twitter, that's a way to just have a chant go, you know, basically viral and just have it be everywhere now instead of just in the hotbed cities.
Which is kind of a super interesting point, considering hashtag hijack Raw is one of the biggest social media trends of like the year.
Yeah, and it's very sad. I mean, sort of the final thing that I do want to ask you guys, I particularly use Facebook. I know you guys maybe don't use it as much as I do, but have you seen some of the comments that wrestling fans leave in like WWE's channel or even their YouTube channel?
I don't think I can bear it, to be honest with you.
No, it's very sad because, at least for me, and I want to put this back to you guys. If you told me 10 years ago that I had the opportunity to somehow be involved with the WWE, I mean, the fact that a drunk Big Show once sent me out a tweet, you know, like, if you told me that 10 years ago, I would have been like, holy crap, this is amazing, you know? But now, instead of having that for the benefit, it seems like people always worry only about bashing whatever it is, always referring to the past, always doing everything that against what is being promoted. And I think nobody wins from that. Nobody.
To kind of go on that point, Ryan, you're a big football fan. Are you familiar with the term armchair quarterback?
Yes, yeah.
Is it just this, like, all wrestling fans are basically armchair quarterbacks?
Could we get some context
Well, no,
for
the
a guy
thing is-
that has no idea about football, please?
They're not even armchair quarterbacks. They're, wrestling fans. And, we're all guilty of this. Like, let's not even leave ourselves out of this. All of us are guilty from time to time.
Totally.
Of course.
But we like to play armchair CEO or armchair general manager. We all think we know how to run a billion-dollar company.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes people even make podcasts just bashing the product when it's not good. And it comes out on a weekly basis, especially Tuesday nights. So, I mean, I think the reason that...
YouTube on Wednesdays.
No longer, actually. It's out Tuesday nights also. You're part of this. You don't know this, Keith? What's going on here?
I've only been back a week. I've been in a hospital.
His brain's still a little
6
wonky
weeks.
from the
My brain
bear
is...
attack.
It's,
True.
all the Canadian healthcare drugs have left me a little wonky. My apologies.
Wow. So for those listening, I actually want to take this to you. Do all of you listening agree that wrestling fans have just become progressively more negative? Am I just imagining this and I need some psychological help? I would love to know, so send us a tweet at ByteThatCast. If you're listening on YouTube, just leave a comment in the comment section below. Now, I didn't want to bring this up, but it's so... this is going to be a big week for wrestling. Right now, we are consistently...
Would you say it's impactful?
Sadly. We're consistently refreshing as we're posting. We record on Tuesdays, and usually this is when, some things start to come out. TNA. TNA has been on Spike TV for multiple years. Now, we stopped watching TNA frequently multiple years ago. I keep up every once in a while on the YouTube channel. I know you guys do every now and then too. But TMZ broke out a story a couple of days ago, like right in the morning, that Spike TV has opted not to renew TNA's Impact Wrestling television contract, which is, huge. TNA, maybe their ratings have not gone up these past few years, but they've been consistent. They're one of the highest rated shows on Spike TV. But I'm not even here to talk about that. What I do want to talk about with you guys is the impact, no pun intended, that this actually has on wrestling as a whole. WWE is, like, how often is WWE on TV? We got Raw, we got NXT.
Well, we're not counting the network, are we?
No, yeah, we're just kind of like...
No, NXT is still on TV.
In some places.
In Canada.
Oh, well,
exactly.
Yeah, internationally. And, yeah.
So we got, like, Main Event, we used to have Saturday Morning Sun, like, there's a lot of that. And it's been monopolizing. And TNA, for better or worse, whether we like the product or not, is at least an alternative show. With that possibly being taken off, because, we're not backstage. We don't know what's happening. How do you think this damages sort of wrestling for fans? Or even does it?
It really doesn't affect as many fans as you might think. I might say is that most of the people that watch it also watch WWE. The thing is that, this really does affect the business negatively in that there's just a lot less places to work now. We're assuming the company goes under here, which, is likely, but it's also likely that they could find another deal. But going on the conversation that, TNA is at least off TV for the time being, this could severely affect, a lot of wrestlers in finding work. But I doubt there's a lot of people who exclusively watch TNA. I'm sure there's some, but I think, it's really just been that steady million fans that just tune in, that most of them are just hardcore wrestling fans.
Yeah, and to play devil's advocate a bit here, it could potentially be a good thing as well. You have a bunch of room for a new number 2 company to come in. There's been rumors circulating around that Jeff Jarrett's company might take a TV slot soon. They could become the new alternative to WWE.
Exactly. Ring of Honor has actually been doing great. Ring of Honor has been doing bigger shows. Tommy Dreamer has his own company too called House of Hardcore. Their shows have been selling out, if not close to. So, I think that it's just been a sad situation seeing this company that we've supported for so long, but sort of seeing the struggle, not just as TNA, but it's just wrestling, wrestling struggling in 2014.
It's interesting, that the deal isn't being renewed. I mean, I think possibly what Spike could be thinking here is, they've also invested money into TNA, and it's essentially had no growth in the amount of years that it's been there. So maybe they see it as, better for them to not have to invest in it. But what I want to actually ask you guys is, I mean, this is still a show that will bring, about 1 million people watching every week, which a lot of smaller networks, a lot of smaller channels, would probably love to have something like that. So do you guys think it will be picked up by another network?
If it was a couple of years ago, I would say absolutely yes. Will it be picked up? I mean, I do think it will. The question is, how big of a network will it be? Because, I mean, when WWE was on Spike, they effectively moved to USA, and they even took sort of shots. I don't know if you guys, we were watching together back then. They took shots that effectively USA got them bigger audiences. So if they only get that consistent million, imagine them going to a smaller network that maybe is not as accessible.
I'm actually glad you brought that up, because that actually reminds me of a situation. There's a show, The League. I'm not sure if any of you guys are familiar with it. But anyway, that show used to be on FX. And up until this year, it was on that channel. And then it moved to their kind of sister channel, along with Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and it was called FXX. And I don't have that on my basic cable, so now I effectively can't watch that show. So if TNA was to move to a smaller network, like you said, you might actually cut that in half or a third. So maybe that could be a reason why they may not get that deal.
And just a little tidbit, I actually can't watch TNA right now. The company, the cable provider that we have in Puerto Rico, opted not to renew any of Viacom's channels. So I don't get MTV, I don't get Comedy Central, I don't get any of that bunch. So, and I mean, keep in mind, realistically, I live in Puerto Rico, and Puerto Rican fans, wrestling fans are, when they love wrestling, they watch everything. So it's a tough situation.
With the situation that TNA's in, do you think there's a possibility that they'll go into business for themselves and create their own video on demand network where they'll stream Impact?
I'm not really sure they'll do that, because I mean, TNA has done online only stuff in the past, and I mean, it was very early into this internet era that we're used to now. I'm not really sure that would work. However, I do want to ask one thing that I believe I asked like 5 or 6 months ago, but it's perfect to bring it back up again. With WWE, there was a rumor that maybe they would buy the TNA library. That would be estimated like $500,000 or something for just like the Impact stuff. How strong do you think it would be for the network from the WWE to not be a network for WWE programming, but as a platform for all these struggling wrestling companies to get just one home that they feel comfortable that they have that access to the fans?
To go play the role of armchair owning $1 million company again, I think it would be awesome, because you get all this content in one central hub. And on a side note, you'd get a hell of a good Sting DVD out of the deal as well.
I think it's great exposure for the wrestling companies. What's WWE's upside on this, though? What if, do they really want other products possibly outshining their product?
Well, at least for me, I mean, once again, we're sort of bordering or along the lines that, we are not owners or anything. But from a wrestling fan, or at least say if I had my own company, say I had Juan's Wrestling Entertainment that gets 10 viewers a week or something, I'd be like, hey, guess what? I would love to join that thing, and I would believe they would just like to be oh, I'm the WWE. You come to me to get that exposure. I manage that exposure. I mean, effectively, they did that with ECW when it was reborn, and of course, it sort of died. And with WCW guys, when they went to WWE and then they died. Okay, so these are really bad examples right now. So how's about actually bring up something positive? I know you were asking a couple of things on the social medias, Keith, regarding some of people's favorite TNA moments. So do you happen to have that list with you, sir? And if so, what are they?
I picked out a couple good ones. And BH on Twitter, which is at ChyTownMadePunk, said, when Christian went through a glass table via Team 3D. Do you remember that? Because I do, and it was pretty cool.
I need to go back and watch that. No.
I don't remember that either.
Okay. Brillo Light on Twitter says, the night that Rhino challenged WWE wrestlers to a match and then burned the ECW title on Impact was his most memorable moment.
I remember that, yeah. That was like...
That one I remember. That's when he went and said, this is the real ECW, stop bringing back a dead dream, and then blew up the old ECW title.
So,
yeah, that was when they had like the trash can and all that, yeah.
So when Ethan Carter has to take a bath, does he go in his EC tub?
Wow, you pulled a key.
Man, I'm not even that good.
Okay, so question then. Do you guys have any favorite TNA moments?
Yeah, there's when TNA was great, it was really good. Like when Kurt Angle first debuted and he had that feud with Samoa Joe and the build up towards that. It was really good. It was really one of the first times that TNA had that really big fight feel. Joe was undefeated, Angle was the unknown, and then they just clashed. Another time that I fondly remember in TNA was when Sting was part of the Main Event Mafia, and he would just come out and cut epic promos week after week after week on whatever he was doing. Some good times.
Definitely some things I liked about TNA. I did like Christian Cage's initial run. It was like the first time we really got to see him put in a main event spotlight, so I really enjoyed that. I think he had a good feud with Jeff Jarrett. I definitely enjoyed anything Paparazzi Productions did. I also thought LAX was a cool...
LAX,
yeah, they were a cool
the original
stable,
LAX with
they
Conan.
had their own little entranceway and everything, and of course Don West on commentary.
Ooh, who can forget that? No, realistically, Don West, for all the crap he got, he was pretty awesome. He was just like that guy that was watching wrestling for the first time, but then you erased his memory, so that it was always his
How
first time.
much does this guy weigh?
For me... Okay, so at least for me, I got two things that I want to bring up. One is the triple threat match at Unbreakable 2005, Christopher Daniels, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe. That match was perfect. I have watched that match easily over 10 times. For those that want to listen to a working man's podcast, check out the Steve Austin show. He has a Christopher Daniels interview where they go really deep into that match, and it's just outstanding. And Ryan sort of stole one of the things that I was going to bring up, which is the Paparazzi Productions. If you have not seen this, I don't care if you have never watched TNA or if you don't know who these guys are. Do yourself a favor, go to YouTube. TNA still has these clips up on their YouTube channel, so just look up TNA Paparazzi Productions. They have the PCS Pogo Challenge. They have all sorts of stuff with Kevin Nash and a bunch of X Division wrestlers, which are the high flyer variety stuff. Man, that stuff is hilarious. And I love that because TNA could be both serious, but also have that really funny stuff. So do us a favor, check any of the things we brought up on YouTube. They're all up somewhere in there. And send us a tweet if you like them, if you hate them, if we're wrong. What are some of your favorite moments? And, you know, we'll certainly keep an eye out on the situation. I don't hope it goes sour. Would you guys be sad if TNA went under?
Of course, it's wrestling failing. That's not good for anybody.
I'm kind of 50-50 on it. Obviously, the reason I would want it to stay alive is so that there would be, you know, places for wrestlers to work and there would be some semblance of competition with TV, live TV wrestling. On the other side, the company has essentially been mismanaged from the get-go and has just made terrible business decisions, from the the corporate side, and booking decisions have been ridiculous at times. So, it's been mismanaged so much to the fact that, who knows how long it'll be able to sustain itself.
And I think that one thing that is key, question, did you guys stop watching TNA because you stopped enjoying the product? or do you just stop watching TNA because it wasn't interesting to you?
I stopped watching TNA because it was almost an abusive relationship at that point. I would love it for a while, and then it would just turn on its head and be the worst. And I just didn't want to be hurt anymore by TNA.
Basically, for me, there was a time where the awesome wrestling was able to outweigh the stupidity of the rest of the show.
Exactly.
There just became a point to me where I felt the show was just insulting, so I stopped watching.
And see, that's interesting because the three of us stopped watching because we stopped enjoying the product. Now, in WWE, how many times, have we complained or something, but we continue watching? But with here, we actually stopped watching for years to the point where we still don't do that.
It's different because it was really bad.
No, but that's what I'm saying, though. It's the fact that sometimes we as wrestling fans say, oh, this is horrible, I'm done. But we go back and watch it. Here, we actually did stop watching.
I think WWE has obviously done really stupid things at times and really insulting things at times, but I think usually it's maybe one thing going on at a time, so the rest of the show is enough to keep you coming back. But sometimes TNA was just a little bit too much, and there wasn't enough to kind of keep you going.
So TNA, hopefully we'll keep finding out more information. We'll keep the refresh button on standby. But something else that is no longer on standby, I am unleashing it, folks. It's time for this week's Tweet of the Week! Tweet of the Week!
As Juan was saying, he was releasing the money shot. It's Tweet of the Week time. And this week's Tweet of the Week has to do with another tragic thing that happened this week. It was the end of an era, the end of another streak. We've lost so much this year already. It has to do with Bo Dallas's undefeated streak ending. This week's Tweet of the Week is brought to you by Table of Japan at Table of Japan. I would have had Bo go 21-0, issue an open challenge, and have Brock Lesnar destroy him. Hashtag armchair booking expert. Hashtag Raw.
Tweet of the Week! Tweet of the Week!
See, it all went full circle there.
Absolutely,
See what I
sir.
did?
It's almost like you predicted the future, sir. And thank you for that somewhat maybe beautiful tweet of the week. Remember, folks, we are available all week on social media. You can find us on both Facebook and Twitter by searching at Byte That Cast, or YouTube channel, youtube.com/Byte That Cast, where we have a ton of content. We have reviews this week. I have a new unboxing video about a Ring of Honor and PWG compilation series. We have a lot of stuff because next week, man, episode 50, we'll certainly, we'll cry a little bit next week as we get closer there. But Ryan, what can people expect, as we reach episode 50?
After episode 50, so during our 1 year anniversary sort of week that we're going to have going on in celebration of our 50th episode and 1 year of Byte That, the special video next Thursday is going to be our top 5 favorite podcast moments. So it's going to be, any moments we felt where, we were having the most fun, and we want to share with you, why they were fun for us. So that'll be a nice little countdown, and that'll be next Thursday.
And something else you can look forward to as we celebrate episode 50 is a completely overhauled ByteThat.com. Now, of course, you can get all our videos on the YouTube channel, but sometimes it gets a little convoluted. You get confused. Like, sometimes I know Keith cries a little bit. So in order to fix that, we have a brand new ByteThat.com website. It's going to have everything, not just the podcast, all of our video content, anything that we do, anything that we cry to, that we love, it will be available on the Byte That website.
So much.
Yes.
We don't cry.
Are you trying to tell us something?
It's very sentimental, man. We're reaching episode 50, and I'm just really happy that we finally got to doing this. Leave me alone.
So, hey, I think Raw happened.
Yes, Raw.
Did it?
So, yeah, no, there was this feud that Keith. This is where we're putting you on the spot. We're putting you in the spot.
I was a mile off on that one. Ooh, golly
A
wally.
little bit of context. So, last time on Byte That Z, Keith was talking about the fact that there was no way, he saw no way, that Stephanie McMahon and Brie Bella would be facing each other in a match. Now, Keith, could you recap just what happened at the end of this week's Raw? What was announced? What happened? I forgot.
Well, to start at the beginning, Stephanie McMahon went to the ring and mentioned that she was sad that she was getting charges laid upon her. Then one Brianna Bella came to the ring and told her that she would drop said charges if A, Nikki got a raise, B, she got her job back, and most importantly, C, if they had a match at SummerSlam. And one Keith Poshik was very wrong.
Exactly. So it is super official that at SummerSlam we're going to be having Stephanie McMahon take on Brie Bella. Keith was terribly wrong. I know somebody listening to the show is very, very happy about that. So I want to get your reaction, Ryan, about this match. You know, it closed out Raw. So this wasn't something that they inserted in the middle or something. I mean, the crowd was involved. Did you feel, did it have this big feel for you?
I think it did. And that is the power of Stephanie McMahon, is this feud has been played so well. And I mean, we've had Stephanie built up as a villain for about a year now with this whole authority storyline. So really, Stephanie, aside from that segment with Vicky Guerrero, is one who's pretty much gone unpunished along the way. Whereas obviously we've seen Daniel Bryan taking on Triple H. So Stephanie hasn't quite gotten her just desserts yet. So that's why I think the crowd is just so into this and they're so rabid for this match. And I mean, I think people are also excited because, Stephanie hasn't been in a match, like she said, for over 10 years. So I'm really looking forward to it.
You mentioned Daniel Bryan versus Triple H. Isn't this just kind of that match part 2 with women?
Yeah. So why not? So they kind of have this in their back pocket. So, have a big match for WrestleMania, have a big match for SummerSlam, and you kind of have the other side of it. And it's cool. It's basically, I mean, who knows? Maybe we get a mixed tag match down the line or something. I mean, how about that?
Exactly. I think that's the awesome thing about this feud is that obviously we don't know about Daniel Bryan's situation, but depending on when he comes back, they can bring in Triple H again. They can have mixed feuds. Like this can be a very long thing. I think that, and I want to take
feuding
this to you,
couples,
Keith. Exactly.
Yeah.
No, and it blurs the lines between reality and wrestling. So that's why I'm looking forward to it. But Keith, since you saw no reason to really have this or a possibility, what was your take on it? Are you sold on this? Because you weren't last week.
I don't know if I'm sold yet. It's still kind of the whole Daniel Bryan versus Triple H 2 thing that I'm kind of caught up on. I personally would have still liked to have seen a Bella heel turn. I think that would have been more impactful. Hashtag armchair booker. But I don't know. That's cool. Stephanie McMahon's in a match. She's probably going to win dirty because...
Let me just say to cover our asses, we like to speculate on what we would like to see. We're not saying WWE should do this.
Yeah.
Yes,
true enough.
We're careful with our words. We're just like, this is what I'd like to see. So anyway, the floor is yours.
Something that I do want to ask both of you. Now, of course, Stephanie was crying. I was cringing a little bit. I know I wasn't the only one, but then lo and behold, when she delivered that slap to Brie Bella, how awesome was that transition? What was your reaction to that?
I was cringing, but it was because of Brie Bella's acting. It's not good. Yura, and then she would say the B word, but make it real loud because that needs emphasis in the acting, and it's no good.
It's good enough. You know what? The crowd popped for it, so it works. I think, obviously Stephanie's kind of mic work and all the heat she has is really carrying it. But I mean, that's what's good for Brie is really she just has to be the opposition, and that's all it needs. and it's doing great. And yeah, that slap was phenomenal. And then, all Brie just has to do is just run in and start attacking her, and it's awesome.
It was way more impactful because it was on the apron.
Yes, exactly.
She dropped.
I was wondering why
Brie,
she was still on the apron, and then it all made sense.
And then all of a sudden, then clunk. But no, I don't think Stephanie's promo work has ever been in question. She's one of the best on the mic.
No, and the fact of the matter is, sometimes she overacts, but I know that's part of the character. Like last night, she was crying and all that, but when she flips that switch, I said on the Raw reception, it's like we got Stephanie McMahon Helmsley, like we got that Stephanie, like the flashbacks and all that. And it's kind of funny because, we got the filthy, brutal bottom feeding trash bag hoe comment from Chris Jericho. So it was interesting how this Raw had a couple of different cool flashbacks. However, I do want to take it to another Diva segment. Somebody actually sent a tweet, I believe it was, that this was a very Diva segment heavy Raw. We won't get a chance to talk about it, but we also got Cameron and Naomi furthering their thing in a tag match. But we talked about the CM Punk chance. But let's talk about the segment where it happened. So, Paige versus AJ Lee. It's now been official. Last week Paige turned heel, but now we got to see more of her character. She came out skipping. So did you guys enjoy that segment between them?
It was okay. I wasn't too crazy about it. Like, I don't like this kind of back and forth with Paige, this sort of, I'm mad at you, now I want to be friends again. She attacked her pretty brutally last week, and then she comes out trying to be friends again. She's coming off as too normal and just kind of inconsistent with the way she's behaving. It's not like she's going Alicia Fox, like trying to be, beating the hell out of you and then just trying to be all super nice and trying to be friends, where you kind of get a crazy vibe or something like that. Paige is kind of coming out like a normal person and like attacking somebody and then being like, hey, yeah, forget about that. Let's just be friends. So I feel like they could be doing a little bit better with how they're making Paige's character. I think AJ's character is kind of still intact, but they really need to figure out what they want to do with Paige, in my humble opinion.
You actually made me think of an interesting point. Can they still do the whole AJ Lee crazy thing when Alicia Fox is running around with her character?
I think that's actually what they're trying to slowly answer, because if you notice, they turned the page, with this segment, because Paige was sort of acting as the more unorthodox diva, but then AJ was very serious. And I think that this was the first time in a very long time where we've seen just AJ be, mad, upset, pissed off, whatever you want to call it. So maybe they're actually trying to move on AJ Lee's character a little bit, so then Paige can slowly have that, unorthodox thing into her. Did you feel that change with AJ Lee, or was it just me?
Well, there's definitely a change in tone, and since she's playing the babyface now, she's kind of not been the crazy one. They really just kind of had that little callback to whenever she is called crazy.
Yeah, that was exactly it. It was a callback. I feel like AJ Lee has already moved on from that a long time ago, ever since the whole, Divas Championship reign, and then just bringing up the whole crazy thing, kind of like, oh, hey, remember when AJ Lee used to do that? Also, WWE, you have no reason to talk about mental health and somebody's mental health with half of your roster. I just needed to get that off my chest, and now it's off.
Well, Kane was not offended by that. So I want a quick response to this question to close out this Divas portion. Are you getting that itch? Not that itch. The itch between Trish, Lita type of thing going on that people keep saying. Are you getting it, or is it still just not there?
It's still too early to say that. They've only had one match. Maybe after SummerSlam, it'll be a better time to talk about that.
I think they need to kind of spice it up with some backstage segments or something. That's what I would like to see. I think it's just kind of, they come out there, they have a promo, and then, the match happens. I want to, the Trish and Mickie James storyline, that was a very well done storyline where they sort of really showed that dynamic of Mickie kind of being obsessed with Trish Stratus. So I feel like they kind of need to bolster this with some cool backstage segments to, like I said, Paige really just needs a defined character. Nobody really knows who she is yet.
Yeah, I'll agree completely. I think that there is something definitely there, but it's a matter of like, what is there? You know, is it going to be something long? Is it going to be something that's just like one feud and then it's over? Keith immediately smiles, you immature bastard. So, you know, I'll keep asking this very same question as the weeks just keep trucking on. Now, I want to bring it back to the very beginning of Raw now. We started off with John Cena coming out, Paul Heyman comes out, then Cesaro comes out. Cesaro talks about the fact that, he's not a Heyman guy, but he's not going to let his good old buddy Heyman be abused in such a manner. So we got an awesome freaking match. How awesome was that match between Cesaro and Cena?
It was excellent. I mean, I think we kind of talked about while we were watching is just that you can sort of tell when they're gonna work a match that's a little bit different than what you typically see on Raw. I mean, first of all, they gave this match like a half an hour, 2 commercial breaks, or maybe 3. I don't even remember.
Yeah.
So they really gave this time so that these guys knew they could kind of really work a solid match. And I really enjoyed it just for the sheer fact that we saw moves we don't typically see on Raw. You see a lot of wrestlers just kind of, do their kicks, punches, and then they have their, signature setup moves, and then it's finisher done. So I really appreciated that a Raw match, we kind of really got a different flavor, a different type of match than we normally see.
Yeah, and if they follow through with it, I feel like this is exactly what Cesaro needed to kind of get out of that funk he's been in since WrestleMania. Because if you remember, when John Cena and Cesaro had that match a long time ago, that's kind of what got Cesaro's momentum going, and this could potentially be the second coming of that.
Exactly, and even before the match, we got to see a little bit more personality out of Cesaro. So the reason or the motivation, I guess you could say, John Cena got to perform more moves was why, Keith?
Well, first of all, by the way, when I found out that those shoes were actually sold at Kmart, mind blown. What was the question again?
They don't have them in adult size though, so your dreams are crushed.
No. Does that mean John Cena has really tiny feet?
Maybe.
You know what they say.
No, seriously, what was the question? I totally forgot it at this point.
I'll just say it. Whatever. No, basically, just the reason that this match happened the way it did was because sort of Cesaro was mocking the fact that Cena's not a good wrestler, even though, he's a couple times world champion, multi-millionaire professional wrestler. So he got that motivation. Do you think that Cesaro overall came out better in this match based on not just the match, but, also the promo beforehand?
Honestly, I think the promo wasn't good, and maybe I'm kind of alone there, but, he was just kind of going right for the cheap shots, and I felt like you're only doing yourself a disservice by saying he can't wrestle, and then you go out there and lose to him. So, I don't know, but I didn't think he took some cheap shots, but I just don't think it came out strong. It just kind of was cheap heat, maybe.
I think the promo was fine, but he also just came hot off the heels of Paul Heyman doing Paul Heyman, so it kind of probably made it seem a lot worse than it actually was.
No, I think I'll agree with Ryan, because all the stuff he said, we could all get a mic, say that exact same thing, and it would get that reaction. Why? Because it's the cheap heat. You're going for the tender area. But I think that we didn't get... Wow, you guys were 5.
I'm not even saying that in a perverted way. That was just weird, the way you said that.
Well, it was so.
Yeah, you're the one that thought it was perverted. How old are you, son?
Fine, leave me alone. No, but the fact of the matter is, it's like Paige, Cesaro still doesn't have a character. When he talks, it seems a little weird. I don't know if it's forced or something, but it's a very bad situation because I really want him to do well. However, the last thing I want to bring up, and I want to know just if this upset you as much as it did me, once again, going back to the very beginning of the show, dirt sheets. What did they report? Oh, Cesaro can't do the Cesaro swing because it gets him over, so he's banned from doing the move. A week later, he does the move against John Cena. What's up with that? What's up with that?
It was It was really funny, though, because he was about to do the swing, and then John Cena countered it into, and I quote, a Hurricane Rana that made it look like he almost broke his neck. And then they kind of teased it, so maybe that was kind of for the smart wrestling fan, like, oh, I guess he can't do the swing anymore, and he countered it, and then he ended up doing the swing, so lol, dirt sheets.
Not to mention the other report of, John Cena gave the World Heavyweight Championship to Ric Flair, thus it is retired. Yeah, that was a nice one. That was actually, for once, I didn't bite on that dirt sheet. That was one of the times where I was like, you know what? I don't think that's true. And I was happy to be right about that. What?
Can I ask you a question? What does a dirt sheet taste like if you bite on it?
I don't have an answer for you right now.
There are so many things that sadly came to my mind that I just won't say. No, but at least for me, I'm gonna either ask you guys this or at least propose something. Aside from the weekly filler here, I've sort of taken upon myself to not read the dirt sheets for a week. I ain't gonna lie, I it's been fine. I've been doing great. I'm still alive. The only reason I went was to check the Spike TV stuff because I'm gonna bring it up in the podcast.
I don't think you need the dirt sheets anymore. All of the big news is just being broken by WWE itself on their social media things. Like, WWE broke the fact they signed Kenta. They broke the fact they signed Kevin Steen. All of that stuff. You're just getting it directly from the source. You're cutting out the middleman.
No, my show is useless.
By Kevin Steen, I think you mean Prince Devitt. The Kevin Steen thing is rumored but not confirmed. By the way, the reason we don't really talk about these guys yet is because, aside from Kenta, we don't really have that much exposure, but we'll certainly do that, bring it up on another time.
So at least with the weekly filler, ever since that whole AJ Lee pregnancy thing came out and I got that super wrong for the show, I've been making more of an effort to sort of pick more factual based stories. Of course, I'm still going to have some speculative ones, but I think I'm going to do a better job of emphasizing when there's speculation because dirt sheets have been especially wrong recently. So, most of the time, DVD news and things like that, things that are kind of nice, cold, hard facts, I might try and stray more towards that because things have been a little crazy lately.
Yeah, so but to end this segment, I actually want to ask everybody listening, how often do you guys browse the dirt sheets? I actually want to know because, considering they're doing all of these outrageous stories, I'm wondering, are less people going to the dirt sheets so they're trying to do more, so much speculation that somebody has to click, or is it just always like that? I have no idea, so I would like to know. So, before we close out the show, we got the fourth member of the show, honorary member.
He's chiming in.
Yeah, Roach McPoach. He sent us a question, and Ryan, what is that question that must be answered by us?
Well, he likes to call himself Roach McLesnar at this time, but anyway, his Twitter is @RoachMcPoach, and he asked, just after the show last week, but he wanted to ask us, is Battleground a necessary pay-per-view? And I think his context is here that his thought is to get rid of Battleground, move Payback and Money in the Bank down some to do a big 5 to 6 week build-up for SummerSlam, similar to a longer build-up for WrestleMania. So what do you guys feel about that?
I'd like to think that Battleground is necessary, but it just hasn't hit the point in the two times, the two areas that they put it at, both this year and last year. Last year, I would argue that it was the worst pay-per-view of last year, especially with the end of the pay-per-view.
Ooh, yeah. That was really bad.
And then, yeah,
that and Survivor Series that was a bad time.
Yeah. Oh God, Survivor Series. I don't want to talk about Survivor Series. But yeah, and then this year, it just feels like it's some unnecessary middle gap between now and SummerSlam. It could have not have happened, and you would just be building up to SummerSlam at this point. So I don't really think it's a necessary pay-per-view.
Personally, for me, I would much rather have bigger build-up. So when we do get the pay-per-view, it's like, okay, so we've been waiting a month and a week or something to finally get the conclusion or the continuation of this match, this feud. Obviously, then the over-analyzing version of Juan steps in and is like, Juan, network, they need more pay-per-views to justify the $10 a month. So that's probably why they also do that stuff. but at least for me, I would rather just have way less pay-per-views and way bigger build-ups.
See, I think it made more sense to have a show like Battleground in the old pay-per-view structure. So I think it really depends on the network whether we'll see this or not. I mean, once it goes completely international, I mean, isn't one pay-per-view enough? I mean, you're not technically making any more money aside from ticket sales, which could be a major factor. I don't know. I don't know their financials. But as far as we're talking pay-per-view buys, you know, $10 a month is $10 a month, whether you have 2 pay-per-views in it or not.
Plus, if we're going on the whole network point, wouldn't it make more sense if SummerSlam is a big renewal time to keep hyping it up and make it as big as it can be up until that point? So everybody's all, oh yeah, SummerSlam, let's go, renew, click. And then
it would be nice if the subscriptions fell that way, but because of where they started it, I think Night of Champions is actually where they have to push for renewals. I think you get SummerSlam within the 6 months, so I guess that kind of makes sense. But Night of Champions thinking is the one where it's after the end, so you have to make that awesome so that people want to renew there.
Oh, that's actually, I never thought about that. So effectively, Night of Champions has to be good enough so you go like, oh, I gotta resubscribe.
There was rumors that Lesnar is going to be at Night of Champions for that reason, because they actually this year have to really push that show.
It would make sense. So thank you, sir, for sending that question. Remember, you can send us a tweet at ByteThatCast with questions for the show. You can also do that by sending us an email. We still get those, bytethatcast@gmail.com. So next week we got episode 50, but before that, Ryan, close out the show, my friend.
All right, well, we want to thank you guys for tuning into another edition of Byte That. Were we somewhat, maybe hypocritical this week? I don't know. You tell us. But anyway, as always, we want you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ByteThatCast, where if you haven't seen it yet, you're missing out on Juan's video, Let Him Go, our parody about CM Punk, where we make fun of the Frozen song and talk about why fans should just let CM Punk go. Also, we have the Raw reception after Raw every single Monday. We give our take as well as tell you what we're going to talk about on the podcast. We've got special videos every Thursday. We got show clips and, of course, the weekly filler on Saturdays where I go through top headlines in wrestling. And you can, as always, follow us on Twitter at ByteThatCast. And hey, like us on Facebook, facebook.com/ByteThatCast. So that is it for this week. We will see you guys next week.